Hello, lovies. Welcome back to WitchyMarlaina's Ghost Adventures. I'm your host, WitchyMarlaina, and today I'm having so much fun with this book. Big Book of Paranormal. Today's ghostly tale is where ghosts normally hang out anyway, right? Today we are talking about the Highgate Cemetery in London. Let's get started. When we think about cemeteries, we think about ghostly people just hanging out in it because there are plenty of stories and legends of ghostly encounters in a cemetery. Highgate Cemetery in London is not one of the oldest cemeteries in London. It is located close to the center of London, and it was erected in 1839. It has these beautiful vaults and catacombs, and just you can meander in this lovely cemetery to the point where you can get lost. It was one of like the chic places to be buried. Like, oh, the who's who's normally were buried there. But by the end of World War II, it got into disarray. It was getting overgrown. Nobody was keeping up with it. And by the 1960s, nobody was being buried in there anymore. Because of this, it's almost like the activity ramped between the 1960s and the 1980s. Case in point, there was a story that said a gentleman was driving and he was passing by the cemetery gates and he saw a dark, menacing figure with bright red eyes staring back at him, and it kind of made him freeze for a minute, but then continue to go on. Now, because it was in disarray and nobody was really taking care of it, there were claims that occultists were using the cemetery to practice rituals, and there were ghostly or hooded figures seen within the cemetery walls. Now, if that was true or not, I don't know. But there was another encounter that a gentleman was, like I said, not even on the cemetery grounds. They were just passing the cemetery, and someone saw a ghost with a top hat, and he almost looked like he was in tails, like almost like he was very well dressed, come out of the cemetery wall, cross the street, and then come back and walk right back into the cemetery wall. It's like almost like he was on a meander. I'm on my constitutional, just going back and forth. It got to the point where one of them got violent. There was another claim that a apparition attacked a lady outside of, again, they weren't on the grounds. It was right outside of these walls. She got tackled to the ground, not understanding what was going on. And she claims that if it wasn't for a car passing by in the headlights, that was what got this entity or whatever off of her, and it just dissipated. What? Serious. But in the 1980s, a group called Friends of Highgate Cemetery started to clean it up. They were uncovering tombstones that have been pretty much lost for decades, getting it to where it is in its beautiful state now. And once they started cleaning up the cemetery, these apparitions and stuff started to chill out. It's almost like they were pissed that their final resting place wasn't getting the attention that it deserved. Which, granted, I would be too. If this was my high society and a bougie place to be buried, and then all of a sudden has weeds and nobody can see my tombstone, I would be pissed too. Not gonna lie. The only major apparition that's seen now is there is a lady with long gray hair, and she meanders through the cemetery almost like from gravestone to gravestone, like she's looking for something. Legend says that this lady murdered her children, and she is doomed in the afterlife to continue to look for them. When I was doing some homework on the Highgate Cemetery, I found two tombstones that I thought were absolutely freaking cool, and I'm going to talk about them right now. The first one's this one. This is Karl Marx, the father of communism. I never thought that he would be buried in England, but I guess he was British, so why not? And then on the flip side, I found this one. This is the tombstone of George Michael. He is buried next to his sister and his mom, and it's just, there were so many cool stones too that it was just one of those things where, oh my gosh, how freaking amazing is that? That it's not just famous people having cool tombstones. There was also pretty neat things in this wonderful cemetery. I'm so glad that they cleaned it up and it is visited more often now. Thank you so much for joining me on my ghost adventures. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you again so much for voting for me. Voting, it will end in a day. It will end tomorrow night. So keep on voting. I want to stay in first place. So thank you. And I will talk to you later. Bye.